everybody, welcome to the show. It is the first week of the month, and keeping up with the tradition I've set this year, we're headed back to the crypt for another double feature. That's right, folks, back-to-back Tales from the Crypt episodes tonight. I do apologize for not getting this up on June 4th, our first Wednesday, as usual, but I was coming back from a trip. That flight got in late, and the time I was planning on using on getting it recorded and edited just didn't allow me to get that done in time. So here we are today, still within the first week of the month. Now, I do want y'all to know, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button wherever you are watching, as next month's Tales from the Crypt double feature is going to focus on two-fisted tales. If you're not aware what that is, at one point they were developing multiple Tales from the Crypt spin-offs, and one of those was more of an action thriller-based series. It was going to be hosted by Tales from the Crypt alumni and king Bill Sadler. So if you come back next month, I'm going to actually show y'all the segments, the wraparound segments that they shot for it, and we're going to focus on the pair of episodes they had for that one as well too, including the very, very popular episode Yellow. You've seen that in Tales from the Crypt. We're going to be talking about that and one other one next month, so hit that subscribe button. Tonight, though, our double feature is going to focus on the summertime heat. Folks, it is June. Things are getting hot here in the country, and so I picked a couple of episodes out to where the heat is just gonna kill you. Tonight in our Tales from the Crypt double feature, we're looking at the season 3 episode Carrion Death and the season 5 episode Oil's Well That Ends Well. Let's go ahead and jump right on into things here with season 3's Carrion Death. Now, let me give you all a little bit of a background on the story here first. So, Carrion Death focuses on Diggs, a bank robber on the run after committing a string of murders with one cop on his tail. When this cop eventually catches up to Diggs, he ends up causing a crash that leaves both of them on foot headed to Mexico. But when the two end up facing off against each other, they have a knockout, brutal, dragged out fight similar to Rowdy Roddy Piper and Keith David in They Live, which leaves the police officer dead when Diggs gets the upper hand on him. But before he dies, the police officer handcuffs himself to Diggs' arm and swallows the key, making sure that he becomes literal dead weight. With no other choices, Diggs hefts the dead body with him to the Mexico border, and when he finds it, he attempts to cut it loose using the cop's badge, but unfortunately ends up cutting his own hand off, which leads him to be dinner for the vulture that's been following him the entire time. Now, Carrion Death is one of the most straightforward Tales from the Crypt episodes that we have out there. We know what to expect when we're watching a Crypt episode, that the protagonist, no matter what type of person they are, good or bad, is going to get themselves into a situation where towards the end, some big twist is going to come around that's going to end with their death or something just as terrible springing up to them. Carrion Death chooses to avoid that by, again, being very, very straightforward. We're following Diggs. Diggs is a real piece of work here. He is not somebody that we're really cheering on in this particular case. But with all the bad things that Diggs is doing throughout this episode, for us, it's just a matter of waiting to when he's going to get his just desserts, because this man is truly, truly despicable. So again, it takes that twist out of the way. Not only that, but Carrion Death is one of the few episodes that's set entirely during the daytime as well too. This is not really a horror-centric episode, which is another thing to point out about this, that Crypt episodes usually fall into one of two categories. We're getting something very much in the horror realm, whether that means it features some kind of monster, serial killer, or some kind of scary situation going on, or as a number of Crypt episodes are, and it does it so well, it's a mystery crime thriller to where it just pushes the tension between something very action heavy going on. And that's very much what Carrion Death here is, and that's why it works so well in the broad daylight throughout the entire runtime. Now, our lead in this, Kyle MacLachlan, who plays Diggs, most of the heavy lifting falls onto his shoulder. We do have the one cop that's hot on Diggs' trail. He is like the embodiment, the human embodiment of death on Diggs' trail. He's the Grim Reaper coming to collect, and it's interesting because once Diggs kills him, it's almost like he's working hand in hand with the vulture that's also following Diggs as well too. It's like a Looney Tunes episode almost. MacLachlan, who it was in his prime in the early 90s here. We all love us some Twin Peaks. No matter how despicable Diggs is, MacLachlan brings that suaveness, that charm, just that fantastic smile. There's something about Diggs that just puts him above all these other villains we've talked about this year, and ones that we're going to get to as we look into further episodes of the show. No matter how cool and how charming that Kyle MacLachlan is, Diggs is just an absolute scumbag. And I feel a lot of times we get redeeming qualities about the protagonist we're following around. There are none here when it comes to Diggs in this episode. Not a single one. Now, this isn't one that I got a chance to catch the HBO debut. I didn't catch the Fox debut for this one either. This was very much one I caught on the sci-fi reruns in the late 90s. Now, as for the Crypt Keeper segments in this one, we're still in season 3, so we are still getting a lot more of those costumes, and the Crypt Keeper is becoming more and more animated. We've gone away from the drab cloak, and this one he dresses up as the motorcycle cop. This episode premiered about a month prior to Terminator 2 Judgment Day, before the world really had an obsession with motorcycle cops. And yet and still, if you look at the comparisons between the cop chasing Diggs and the T-1000, these unstoppable machines that you have to put into the ground if you want to escape, there are a few similarities there. Now, behind the camera, the final thing I do want to mention here is that our writer and director of this episode is one you should know, as he's written and directed a number of really famous 80s and 90s action classics, and is responsible for bringing us some of the greater villains that we have seen across cinema in the last 40 or 50 years. We're talking films like 48 Hours, Commando, The Running Man, Die Hard, and one of my personal favorites, Street Fighter, the movie. That's right. Steven DeSouza is the writer and director of this episode, who wrote and directed a number of those films that I just got done naming. And again, Diggs is such a great villain in this episode, you honestly can see little traces of other characters in these other films, like Hans Gruber from Die Hard, or Killian from The Running Man, and even a little bit of M. Bison from Street Fighter. Carrion Death is a tremendous Tales from the Crypt episode, and I am curious in the comments section, those of y'all that tend to fall more towards like the more horror-centric episodes of Tales from the Crypt, how did this one leave you? Because I truly feel, again, that this is one of the best, if not the best episode of the show. I'm curious at how you guys receive it, who might prefer the monsters and the ghouls and goblins of the crypt that we're usually getting. Let me know in that comment section, folks. Over to our second episode, we are talking season 5's Oils Well That Ends Well. Now, this is another crime thriller episode. There's a few factors in it that actually make it a really memorable episode, and one of the more fun rewatchable episodes of the series just in general. This is definitely one of those ones that you could just put on randomly at any time, and it really does hit the spot. First off, let's talk a little bit here about the story. Oils Well That Ends Well focuses on a pair of conmen and lovers, Jerry and Gina, who decide they're going to run an ultimate con on a nearby town by convincing the residents that there's oil under the local cemetery. Now, in order to get that oil, a select group of participants just got to put in a little bit of seed money, and then everybody gets a big cut of the prize at that point. Unfortunately for Gina, after a number of backstabbings, we find out that Gina is the true mark in this entire con, set up by Jerry and all of his friends in order to collect her nest egg that she had saved away. But Gina will ultimately have the last laugh, as everybody discovers there truly is oil under the cemetery, and showing that there's no vengeance like a woman scorned, Gina lights a cigarette and tosses it into the newly found golden oil, killing them all. There's something about like the coloring of this episode, the way that it was shot, to where it just screams 90s and late 80s neon signs to me. Whether it's the opening Crypt Keeper segment and like the blue and red that's coming out of the crypt, which seems super new for these Crypt Keeper segments, whether it's the case of the way the town always just seems like no matter where they're at, whether they're in the graveyard, whether they're in the bar, somebody's office, the trailers, it always seems like there's some kind of neon coming in. Like, this is an episode that plays perfectly at 2 a.m. on a weekend. You're coming back from the bar scene and you need to throw something on. This episode is the perfect kind of feeling for that. The big draw here of Oil's Well That Ends Well is our main man, the Crypt Keeper, or more specifically, the man behind the skull here, John Kassir, who voices our title character, shows up in Oil's Well That Ends Well as a cast member. Larry, one of Jerry's friends, who's trying to turn the tables on Gina to again scam her out of her own money. And I have to imagine this had to be huge for folks who are catching this episode as it debuted on HBO. Now, I do want to say, I did not catch the HBO debut of this episode. I did catch the Friday night on Fox debut of this, and I'm going to talk about why I keep that in mind here in just a minute. But I am curious, and I need y'all to tell me in the comment section. How cool was it seeing that John Kassir actually showed up in the episode and the fact that we get to see the Crypt Keeper on screen? You gotta let me know, because I think that's such a cool bit of history to get to see that in real time. Now, as for when I saw it, again, I didn't catch that HBO debut, but I was lucky enough to catch it on Fox. And there's certain episodes I have these great memories of catching for the first time, and this is one of those, specifically, weirdly enough, because of Power Rangers. At the start of season 2, you might remember in 1994, in the summer of 94, they did prime time Power Rangers. They showed the Mutiny, which is the debut of Lord Zed and the Thunderzords at 8 p.m. on Fox. I do know that Oil's Well That Ends Well debuted not too long after primetime Power Rangers. It would have had to be in the summer of 1994. I actually had a chance to talk to John Kassir about this particular episode, and John actually offered a bit of a tidbit here for us about this. Listen up. John said, "It was an awesome time working with that cast for sure. I mean, come on, Lou Diamond Phillips, Priscilla Presley, Alan Ruck, Rory Calhoun, and Noble Willingham. I occasionally run into Lou Diamond Phillips and we have a good laugh reminiscing about making that. Of course it was a challenge, getting into a casket and having them close the lid. Then they had to make it look like Lou Diamond was digging me up. So they had to throw some dirt on top to start the scene. You can only imagine what that sounds like when you're in a casket and you can hear the dirt being thrown on top." First of all, John, thank you so much for giving us that tidbit here on the show. And secondly, yeah, you're a better man than I, and I think a lot of the rest of us as well, too, because imagine the nightmares. Imagine how terror-inducing that would be, whether you were on a set or not, to be in an actual grave, in an actual coffin with dirt actually coming down, and you're seeing this film like, get me out, get me out. Like, I feel like I'd have a panic attack for it. John, you show no issues with that on screen. You are a chip, good sir. This is definitely one of the more fun casts that we get in a Tales from the Crypt episode. Everybody has really good chemistry with each other, especially Lou Diamond Phillips and Priscilla Presley. And it's really fun because Priscilla Presley like draws that attention to herself, and not in a negative way, but you can definitely see Lou Diamond Phillips like competing to get a little bit more of that back. But like that camera is just drawn to Priscilla Presley. Once you kind of know where it's ultimately going to go, watching it go back and forth for who has the upper hand really does make this one of the more enjoyable episodes of the series. So it's memorable in a large number of ways, the biggest being that we finally get to see John Kassir get a little bit of his flowers by appearing in the show that he is most synonymous with. He's our Crypt Keeper. But on those Crypt Keeper segments, you might have noticed there that the Crypt Keeper is playing the Tales from the Crypt pinball machine. Though he's got to get his DMD fixed because that thing definitely wasn't on while he was playing. I am very curious what his high score is on that game. But it's very cool and very meta to see the Crypt Keeper not only playing the pinball at the beginning, but at the very end, pointing out John Kassir being in the episode as well. That has to be so much fun. And like I said, it wasn't one that I appreciated when I saw this as a kid, but I do remember when I saw it again, feeling to me was very similar to finding out that Mark Hamill was the Joker. There was nothing cooler, and me being such a big Tales from the Crypt fan, there's still nothing as cool as what we've seen here as well. But y'all tell me about it in the comment section. I am curious what you thought here of Oil's Well That Ends Well. And of course, y'all, make sure to get subscribed to my channel, because in addition to more Tales from the Crypt coverage every first Wednesday of the month, we got so many other reviews in the world of horror, movies, TV shows, books. We got a lot coming up here over the next few days. I don't want y'all to miss any of that at all here. The best way to stay on top of it is going to be to follow my link tree at linktr.ee/T scary movie. If you get subscribed, that's going to give you access to the YouTube page for the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms for the audio only versions of the show, my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings through the year, my TikTok page for movie premieres, movie reviews, and movie news, my Twitch page for horror gaming, and my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop. Take advantage of that, folks. Hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button wherever you are watching. We're going to try to get these numbers up so I can keep bringing you more and more reviews. What is coming up next for you? Friday, June 6th, we are talking the pilot episode of Better Luck Than Chuck, the first horror trivia game show. It is going to be excellent. I am so excited to finally talk about this with all of you. Yours truly does get to show up as a contestant later on in the season, but we are talking the pilot episode here for all of you. That's coming Friday, June 6th. Saturday, June 7th, we are talking Hell of a Summer. This is the writing and directorial debut of Stranger Things, Ben Wolfhard, and writing directing partner Billy Burke. This is a send-up of classics like Friday the 13th. We're going to see, does it work out when a killer shows up at summer camp? Then, on Sunday, June 8th, we are talking Dangerous Animals. Jai Courtney plays a serial killer who feeds his victims the sharks. This sounds right up my alley. You don't want to miss any of that, y'all. Hit that subscribe button. But that is going to do it for me here tonight. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.